Good afternoon from those of us here in Redmond. Welcome to our August 2019 Accessibility Learning webinar. My name is Sean Merrihew, and I'm on the Microsoft Disability Answer Desk team.
And my name is Jennifer, and I'm a program manager on the Accessibility Technical team. We are your moderators for today's webinar. Our mission here at Microsoft is to empower everyone to achieve more. Many of our customers have asked for training on products, so we started a monthly webinar series to empower every customer with accessibility knowledge. Sean, can you tell us about today's webinar?
Absolutely. And so before I do that, I do want to mention that we do have captions available. So if you do want to follow along using captions, just open your web browser and navigate to aka.ms/webinar captions, and then you'll be able to access those. So in terms of format for today, where we have about an hour to work with here. The last 15 minutes we'll save for Q&A. And don't worry, if you do miss part of today's session, it will be recorded and we'll send a link out to everyone who's registered for it. So today I'm excited to learn about Xbox. So we have Bryce Johnson here and Brandon Zahand, and they're going to talk about some of the accessibility features built right into Xbox and the Xbox Adaptive Controller.
Yeah, as Sean mentioned, when Bryce and Brandon finish, we'll have Q&A. Please email us your questions at accwebinars@microsoft.com or ask us on Twitter using hashtag accessibilitywebinar. Okay, Brandon, let's learn about accessibility features on Xbox.
Cool. Hey, so yeah, I'm Brandon Zahand. I'm a gaming accessibility program manager here at Microsoft. I've been with Microsoft 21 years and with Xbox 17. And accessibility has always been a passion of mine. You know, it's been fantastic to see over the last few years how accessibility has become more and more prominent in the game industry. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how Microsoft has been trying to make gaming better and for customers in our ecosystem through ease of access settings that we've built directly into the Xbox console. So if you want to follow along with me, I'll try to be describing what I'm doing as much as possible. So we're going to be starting on the home screen for those of you following along at home. I'm going to be pressing the Xbox button on my controller and navigating to the settings section by pressing the right bumper 3 times, and that takes me to the system menu. And I'm going to press down once to click Settings. Now when you go to Settings, you're going to see on the left-hand side a number of different options. We have Account, Personalization, Network, System, and so on. At the very bottom, though, we have an option called Ease of Access. So using my directional pad, I'm going to navigate all the way down there, and I'm going to press A. The vast majority of our accessibility options are stored on this menu, and we have a number of them. I'm going to read them out, and then we'll go through and break them down one by one. Now, as we're going through them, I'm not going to talk about every setting for each of them because we have a limited amount of time today, but rest assured that you can find all the information about all the settings for these features on xbox.com. So in this list, we have Narrator, Magnifier, closed captioning, high contrast, controller, game transcription, and audio. The first item we're going to cover is Narrator. I'm going to press A, and we're taken to a screen that says Ease of Access Narrator. And focus is immediately given to an item that says Narrator On, and it's a checkbox. And above it, there's some text. The text reads, Narrator is a screen reader that reads text, buttons, and other items on your screen out loud. Narrator works best with a keyboard. Some things may not be read with a controller. Narrator now uses a standard keyboard layout. Now what's cool about this is that when you turn this on, you get a screen reading functionality within the Xbox dashboard, similar to the type of screen reading you might get when you're in Windows and turn on the Windows Narrator. It's important to note that this functionality only works within the Xbox dashboard. There's different functionality that we'll talk about a little bit later that applies to games, but this functionality applies to the Xbox dashboard. Now, to turn this on, I press the A button.
Starting settings window, narrator on checkbox checked. Narrator is a screen reader that reads text, buttons, and other items on your screen out loud. Narrator works best with a keyboard. Some things may not be read with a controller. Narrator now uses a standard keyboard layout.
So you can hear that narrator read out the control I was on, and it read out the information that was a part of that control. It's pretty cool. Now I'm going to turn that off really quick as we go through and talk about
Exiting narrator.
the other options that you can turn on for narrator. I'm also going to tell you a different kind of a shortcut to turn on narrator as well. But the fact of the matter is that narrator will allow you to navigate through the Xbox dashboard and other components of the Xbox dashboard like the store section and whatnot, so that you're able to find your content and launch it. So there's a controller shortcuts section that will give you information on how to use the shortcuts within narrator. By pressing this, you're brought to a screen that tells you information like how to turn it on using a double tap, by holding down the Xbox button and then pressing the menu button, which I'll demonstrate in a second. It also talks about some of the shortcuts that you can use once narrator is turned on, such as double tapping the Xbox button to switch between controller mode and narrator mode, and some other shortcuts. We also have a section for keyboard shortcuts. So if you have a keyboard plugged in to your Xbox console, we have keyboard shortcuts that will work with narrator as well. And by popular demand, we actually put in a function that will warn you when you turn on narrator, so that in the event you don't need narrator, you will be prompted in case you accidentally hit a shortcut that would normally turn narrator on. To demonstrate this, I will turn that function on by checking it. And now, to use that shortcut I was talking about previously, holding down the Xbox button and then pressing the menu button, I get a pop-up.
Dialog. No, button, 1 of 3. Do you want to turn on narrator? Narrator is a screen reader that reads text, buttons, and other items on your screen out loud. The keyboard for narrator now uses a standard layout. Find out more in settings, ease of access narrator.
You can see that it's prompting me if I want to turn on narrator. Now I'm going to turn it on again briefly because I do want to show you some of the settings for narrator. So I'm going to click yes.
Button, 2 of 3. Settings window, warn me when turning narrator on checkbox checked, 5 of 5. Choose whether to show a confirmation message when turning narrator on in the power menu.
Now, when turning on narrator, I'm given two other options. The one of them, which I'm going to explain to you, which is the narrator's options button in this menu. I'm going to move up using my D-pad and choose narrator options.
Button, voice, Microsoft David, combo box, collapsed, 1 of 4.
I'm now given.
Choose a voice for narrator.
I'm now given 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different options here on this screen where I can tweak narrator to my liking. I can change the voice. I can choose between
David, 1 of 3, selected.
I can choose between 3 different voices.
Voice, Microsoft David, combo box, collapsed, 1 of 4.
I can
choose a voice for narrator.
I can change the volume
collapsed.
Of the voice. I can change the speed. I can change the pitch of the voice. And I can choose whether to read out idle content. That would be when your screensaver kicks in, and whether you want items on the screensaver to be read out and voiced. I can also choose which key I want to use as my narrator key. In this case, I have a drop-down where I've set caps lock or insert. As you can tell, sometimes giving a demo with narrator on is a little tricky, so I'm going to actually turn it off so I'm not constantly competing with narrator. So I'm going to turn that off by using the same shortcut by holding down the Xbox button and pressing the
exiting narrator
menu button. And now we've turned off narrator. All right, so I'm going to back out now, and we're going to move on to Magnifier. Now, Narrator is a great technology. It's fantastic for people who are very low vision, who might be blind. Narrator also has some interesting applications for people who might have low literacy, younger folks who might not be able to read. But Magnifier is a technology that's also for people with low vision that allows them to magnify what's on screen. And what's great about Magnifier is that it will work regardless of whether you're in the Xbox Dash, an app, or any game. To change the settings, you would go and press A, and I'm brought to a screen that says Magnifier. Magnifier is a tool that zooms in on part of the screen so you can see text and images better. And I'm on a button, or a checkbox rather, that says Magnifier on. And if I check that, what immediately happens is the screen zooms in. I can then navigate around the screen by panning left and right using my right thumbstick. And I can change the zoom level by using my right and left triggers. Once I've kind of found an area of the screen that I want to focus on and a level of zoom that I like, I can double tap the Xbox button, and now my controls and my view are locked. So now my right thumbstick behaves as it normally would, and my right and left triggers behave as they would normally. If I want to unlock my magnification, I can double tap the Xbox button again. And now I can move around again and magnify, zoom in and out as I would normally. I can then go and turn off Magnifier by unchecking the checkbox, or I can use a shortcut similar to the way we turned on Narrator. However, instead of holding down the Xbox button and pressing the menu button, I can hold down the Xbox button and press the view button on the controller to turn Magnifier on and off. Now, there's some other options on this screen. Similar to Narrator, we have some shortcuts that you can use on the controller and the keyboard. And there's information you can access on those on this screen. We have an option to follow controller focus. We also have a similar warning so you don't accidentally turn on Magnifier if you don't want to. And then we also have an option to turn on a large on-screen keyboard. So there might be situations where you're prompted to enter text in a game or on screen in the Xbox dashboard. In those instances, this checkbox would allow you to make that keyboard larger. So that setting is here as well. Now I'm going to back out of Magnifier, and we're going to move to our next setting, which is closed captioning. Closed captioning is a setting section in the OS where we allow users to choose how they want closed captions presented to them. And then different apps and games can choose whether they want to pull these settings in and utilize them. Right now, you can see on our screen that we have three main options on the left side. Closed caption off, on using default style, and on using custom style. And right now, we're set to being on using a custom style. But if I choose closed captions off, all of the options, other options on the screen, all of the sample caption text disappears. If I choose on using the default style, similarly, nothing else appears on the screen. That just provides a very standard closed caption style that you might be familiar with, something similar to what you would be familiar with if you were to, say, watch TV captioning. However, on using custom style, what we had turned on previously, that's really where the power of this system is. You can change the caption color, the caption transparency, the caption size, the caption style, even caption effects, whether they're raised, whether they're depressed, whether they have a drop shadow. You can change the background and window color and transparency. And once all of this is set, again, games and applications, our movies and TVs app, all of these can pull these settings in if they choose to and utilize them. Now, to be clear, it is up to the game and/or app to choose to implement these options. So one of the things that my team is working to do is educate developers about the availability of these settings and how to implement them within their titles. But it's a great place to go in, set your preferences, and see which games and apps are utilizing them to provide a more consistent set of captioning experiences when you're using them. So let's move on to high contrast. So in high contrast, it's a single screen with one option. It says turn on high contrast to make on-screen elements easier to see. This will prevent your personal color and background from being shown. And then there is a drop-down list, and currently it's set to off. When I open that drop-down list, I'm presented with three options: off, dark theme, and light theme. So let's choose dark theme and see what happens. When I choose dark theme, a few things you'll note. The background becomes deep black. The text on the screen is bright white. And the indicator color, basically the color that I was using to highlight what was chosen on the screen, now becomes a bright blue, whereas originally it was orange. This is our dark theme, and this makes it easier for some individuals to see what's on the screen if they have low vision. In addition, if I back out to the Xbox dashboard homepage, you'll notice that whereas on the original homepage we had some art that was behind in the background, that art's been removed. That makes it easier to see the launch Minecraft text that we have on the screen and the text of these buttons, such as the Sea of Thieves made a post button and the new messages from Xbox Live button. Again, high contrast is designed to make it easier for individuals who have issues with contrast make that distinction between foreground text and the background. So we do remove those backgrounds. We also have an option, as you saw, to choose a light theme. So let's go back there really quick. I go back into Settings, I go to Ease of Access, I scroll down to High Contrast, and I change it to Light Theme. And now we have very black text on a very intensely white background with a very bright purple indicator. So again, two different contrast themes to choose from, whichever you prefer. And I'm going to turn that off now. Next, let's move to controller. Now, I'm actually not going to talk much about button mapping or Copilot settings because Bryce is going to be talking about those in his discussion about the Xbox Adaptive Controller. But one thing I do want to call out is our ability to turn on and off vibration settings. Interestingly enough, one of the #1 feature requests we had before we started working on accessibility settings for the console was the ability to turn on and off vibration for controllers. For some people, it's just annoying. For other people, it actually can cause pain or sensory overload. So by choosing hit the wrong button there. By choosing vibration settings, I'm taken to a screen that shows a picture of the controller. And it says a bunch of information about button mapping and swapping sticks. But if I scroll down to the bottom here, there's an option. It's a checkbox that says turn on vibration. And by checking it or unchecking it, vibration is now turned off on the controller. And by checking it, vibration is turned back on. So a very simple, easy to turn on and off feature, but can be very helpful for people with certain types of preferences or disabilities. All right. Next, game transcription. So we're going to enter the game transcription menu from the Ease of Access menu. And it's going to ask me for my passkey. And this is because some of these settings are stored at my profile level, which means that these settings are going to be carried around with me depending on where I sign in, which console I sign into, or if I sign in with my profile onto a PC, for example. So I'm going to sign in with my profile. And I'm presented with 4 different options. One is speech to text on, one is text to speech on, one is text to speech voice, and one is let games to read to me. So first, let's talk about speech to text and text to speech. So speech to text is an ability to take the voices that you would normally hear in a multiplayer chat session, so people have headphones on, they're chatting back and forth, they're talking, and have what people are saying converted to text. Now, this is really helpful if, for example, you're unable to hear. But this can also be really helpful if you just don't happen to have a pair of headphones with you, and maybe it's late at night, and you don't have the sound turned up because your spouse is sleeping, or you don't want to disturb somebody. So by turning this on in games that support it, you'll have a dialog box that will pop up and it will read out what people are saying. It'll transcribe it into text for you. Similarly, text-to-speech gives you an ability to, if you are unable to, say, vocalize, you are able to type text in to a window, and for people who are using headphones, they will hear it voiced out in the voice of your choosing. So here on the right where we have text-to-speech voice, I can choose between 3 voices.
Microsoft David.
Microsoft David, Microsoft Zira, or Microsoft Mark. And whichever voice I pick, when I type that text, the player on the other end would hear what I'm typing out voiced in the voice of my choosing. So again, really helpful if, again, I'm unable to vocalize, or again, in that scenario where I might be in a situation where I don't want to chat because I don't want to disturb other people, or I don't have a headset with me. So we actually have a video clip of this working in one of our titles, and let's load that up and take a look at how that works.
Crime waits for no one, Agent. Not even you.
So in that video clip, we had a user who was unable to vocalize, responding to a user who was speaking and having their text transcribed, their voice transcribed to text. They were responding by typing something out using the on-screen keyboard. And that player who had been chatting to them and having their voice transcribed to text, on their end was hearing out what they were typing voiced out. So it's a really fantastic feature. Again, it only works in games that have supported it. There are a number of titles that have Halo Wars 2, Crackdown, Sea of Thieves, Minecraft. So definitely go out, give that feature a try. It's pretty cool. And we're constantly educating developers about that functionality, how they can implement it. It's pretty cool. Now, the other feature I wanted to talk about here was let games read to me. So I had mentioned earlier about Narrator, that Narrator only works within the Xbox dashboard. And honestly, there are a few select applications that Narrator will also work with as well. But what let games read to me does is it tells titles that choose to implement a narrator-like experience that players want that functionality. So Microsoft provides APIs and system-level functionality that allow developers to provide spoken menu navigation. And by enabling this, those developers can read that setting and know that a player wants that experience enabled. So again, fantastic for people who might have low or no vision, but also fantastic for folks with perhaps lower literacy or younger audiences, individuals who might not be able to read just because they haven't learned how to read yet. So we have a video of this being demonstrated in Crackdown 3. Let's take a look at that clip.
Solo campaign. Play the single-player campaign. Co-op campaign. Create a cooperative game with another player.
So yeah, fantastic feature and gives developers an ability to easily make their games more accessible to those with low or no vision. So this is where you would enable that functionality. So just one more feature left to chat about real quick, and it's a pretty simple one, but it's actually a really useful one, and that is audio. And under audio, we have an option called mono output. So this is a fantastic capability for individuals who might have a hearing imbalance. As an example, I'm somebody who has high-end hearing range loss in one ear. So games that have high-pitched audio cues, I'll often miss if they're on the left side of, if they're being put through the left headphone. So what mono output will do is it'll put those audio cues on both sides. That's great for me because in that way, sounds that might come up from my left side that I wouldn't normally pick up and might miss, that might be game critical, I can now hear coming through on my right side. So it's a real simple feature to implement, real simple feature to turn on, but can be very, very useful for those with hearing challenges. So that's it. Those are our ease of access settings. And I should say that, accessibility for us here at Xbox is a journey, not a destination. This is just a small set of features that we want to expand upon over time. And so our hope is that you will use these features, send us feedback on them, as well as other features that you'd like to see us implement. Please reach out to us if you have questions, concerns, feedback, or ideas on ways we can improve the Xbox even more. With that, I'll turn it back to Sean and Jennifer.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Brandon. That was a really great overview of some of the features that are built right in. Probably the funniest way that I've ever seen Magnifier used is so someone was playing a game. I actually don't remember which one it was, but they were trying to spot a player out in the distance. And in that game, I think you could only zoom in so far, so they quickly turned on Magnifier, spotted that player in the distance, shut it off, and kept playing. So that was a fun example. And we'll turn it over to Bryce.
Great. That was a great job, Brandon. That was a good overview of the Xbox features. I'm Bryce Johnson. I'm the inclusive lead for Microsoft devices. I work on our hardware accessibility, and I'm one of the inventors of the Xbox Adaptive Controller. And today I'm going to be showing you how you can use the Xbox Adaptive Controller to empower gamers with limited mobility. But I'm going to start actually by talking about our traditional controller. So this is our traditional Xbox controller. We love this controller. But our journey to start recognizing how we could empower gamers with limited mobility started from a place where we had to recognize where the barriers that cropped up for people with our traditional controller. If you think about traditional game controllers, they've been optimized over many generations around a primary use case, and that use case makes a lot of assumptions. It assumes that you have two hands to hold it. It assumes that you have two thumbs for these sticks. It assumes that you have a fluid range of motion to get to all the buttons on the controller. You hit 17 buttons on an Xbox controller with 4 fingers. That's quite a number of buttons. It assumes that you have the reach to get to these bumpers and triggers with your index finger. And it assumes that you have the endurance to be able to hold it. And when these assumptions aren't met, we had to recognize that this was the barrier. And we had some great partners that worked with us through this journey on recognizing these exclusions. We worked with charities across the game accessibility spectrum, like Able Gamers and Special Effect and Warfighter Engaged, the Cerebral Palsy Foundation, and Craig Hospital. And they all basically helped us on this journey that we had to create the adaptive controller. So before I get into the adaptive controller, I actually want to show you what Brandon talked about, which is Copilot. Copilot's a really important feature for us because what it does is it lets us take 2 controllers and make them appear as one controller on the system. That one just shut off on me. So now when I go into Copilot settings here, so I'm going to go into the Xbox Accessories app. I'm going to run into this settings, and then I'm going to turn on Copilot. Copilot, this controller is now co-piloted with this adaptive controller. These 2 controllers are acting like one controller on the system. You press one button on one, and it's the same button on a different controller, it's the same button. These 2 controllers can control one character, and this is really powerful for a number of scenarios. It allows people to use a traditional controller in conjunction with either the adaptive controller or another traditional controller, or it allows people who might have really severely limited mobility to have a Copilot, and that Copilot can do a lot of the secondary actions in a game. So while the primary player can basically be sitting there accelerating and steering the car, the Copilot can go in and do menu options and pause and play and things like that. So I'm going to go through the adaptive controller setup. The adaptive controller has some buttons that come with it. These are 2 buttons. These are A and B buttons, just like you'd have on a traditional controller, A and B. There is a view and menu button. There is the Xbox button. And then there is a D-pad. These are the standard buttons that you need to navigate the Xbox dash. There is another button here, which is actually a profile button. There are 3 built-in remapping profiles that can happen on the adaptive controller that you can store on the device so that you can change them like in the middle of a game without having to go out to your Xbox settings. The real magic of the adaptive controller, though, happens on the back. I said that there were 17 buttons on the adaptive controller. We have 19 ports on the back. There is a 3.5 millimeter port for every function on the controller, for every button. 3.5 millimeter is standard in the assistive technology space for what we call buttons or switches. And I have some here that I'm going to show you. So in this setup, I'm actually going to go out of this. Oops, my controllers like to shut off. So in this adaptive controller setup, I'm going to hit the configure button, and I already have a profile loaded up, Forza head button, and let's go in and edit what that profile is. So this is the remapping interface for not only the adaptive controller, but also for our traditional controller. The adaptive controller does have more remapping functions than our traditional Xbox controller, but the interface is very similar. So right now, what I have basically mapped in here is, this is actually pretty simple in that I've only basically remapped the directional buttons on the D-pad to left and right movement of a stick. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to play some Forza Horizon with no hands. And so what I needed to do is I needed to make these two buttons here that I have mounted to this table basically used so I could steer the car. The way that I'm going to accelerate the car is you might notice that I have a button here. And then I'm going to use this button, that is also plugged into the adaptive controller, into the right trigger slot to accelerate the car. So one last thing I did, which is actually a really interesting thing that we don't talk about quite often, is I changed the dynamics of the left stick, because what that means is that it's really actually difficult to drive a car with like buttons. The game actually assumes that you're going to drive it with like a joystick. So what I've done is I've actually said, I've changed the acceleration curve of the stick so that it's actually more delayed. So I'm not basically driving off the road with slight hits. But I'm not going to promise anything. I could probably totally drive off the road in this kind of demo that we're going to do next. So right now I'm going to go in to Forza. So we'll see how I can hear the music. So I'm going to set myself up for this demo. So what I've got here is I'm going to slide my knee between these two buttons, and this is what I'm going to use to steer. And then I'm going to put this button on my head, and I'm going to use this to accelerate. I am going to cheat a little and basically get out of this. So I'm accelerating.
It's all marked out for camera.
I picked an exciting part to go to. Hopefully I'll make this jump. Oh, I'm going off. Oh, I didn't make the jump. You don't know how many times I practiced this, guys. All right, let's try again. Ooh, sliding down a hill. Luckily, I'm ahead of time, so I actually really want to see if I can make this. Fun fact about Forza Horizon, it's impossible to hit a sheep with a car. They made it impossible in the game to do. I have 11 seconds. 10, 9. Let's see if we can do this. 4. Oh, I'm out of practice. Nope.
Can't use it.
Wasn't going to work today.
That's why.
But that's all right. You guys can kind of see what I kind of did there, in that I was steering the car with my knees. I was accelerating the car with my head. Forza with no hands. And if I had a Copilot there, which I probably should have enlisted, a Copilot might have been able to help me get back on track if I got lost. So this is how we think about the adaptive controller, and how we think about this type of input for gaming, is we think about modularity. One of the things that is really important to us is putting a button where you have movement. So quite often in gaming, we assume that gaming is about your hands. And the journey that we've been on with our partners and those charities is recognizing that people have movement all over the place, and we can put a button where they have movement. And that's really important. So that's what we've enabled with the Xbox Adaptive Controller. We're always out trying to learn from the community about how we can make this device work for people with limited mobility. But yeah, that's basically it in a nutshell. I encourage you to go to a Microsoft store and try it out. The adaptive controller is available to try out in a Microsoft store, and you can check out support.xbox.com for more information on how to configure the device. I'm going to actually throw this back to Sean and Jennifer.
Great. Well, thanks, Bryce. I love seeing the adaptive controller in action. So yes, we are ready for some of the audience questions. And if you haven't already sent them in, feel free to either email them to accwebinars@microsoft.com, or you can reach out to us on Twitter @MSFTEnable, and just make sure to use the hashtag #AccessibilityWebinar.
All right, the first question is for Brannon. Brannon, what games support game transcription?
Oh, again, there's a lot of them, and I don't have the full list off the top of my head, but again, Halo Wars 2, Sea of Thieves, Halo Wars 2, Sea of Thieves, Crackdown 3, Minecraft,
I think Forza Horizon.
Forza Horizon, Gears of War 5 will support it. Like there's a lot, and again, the important thing to call it. So Microsoft titles going forward, this is our vision. Like this technology is incredibly important to us. We feel it's incredibly important to our consumers to provide this level of accessibility. So you can expect that technology from us moving forward. But it's also important for us to ensure that our customers who are of games using our third-party games on our platform have access to this. So at game developer conferences, you'll see us talking about this technology. We talk to our third-party partners when they come out and visit us here in the Inclusive Technologies Lab. We talk to them about that technology and how to implement it. So our hope is more and more titles will be picking up this technology and utilizing it.
Great, thanks, Brandon. So this next one, we actually get a fair bit from customers, and I'll toss this one over to Bryce. So the adaptive controller does cost a little bit more than a standard controller. Are you able to talk to that, Bryce?
Yeah, the adaptive controller has a lot more functionality than our typical controller, but we are very aware at the value that we wanted to give to customers with this device. So we priced the controller as best we could, and it sits basically between our standard controller and our Elite controller. It is $99 in a Microsoft store. And one of the things that we really wanted to do to make sure that we were providing value is a lot of the times assistive technology buttons can be quite expensive, which is why that we made sure that we included 2 on the device. And even beyond that, the reason why it was so important for us to talk about Copilot today is to really sort of inform people that if you can use part of a controller, we want you to. We don't want you to have to go out and buy buttons that you don't need. So Copilot is a really important feature for enabling people to be able to set up a controller rig in the way that they need it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bryce. Brandon, can I customize high contrast themes on Xbox?
Right now we have the 2 high contrast themes, light and dark. That's actually a feature request we've had before, so it's definitely on our radar. Thanks to those who've sent in that feedback. Right now, it's not a possibility, though, but keep those ideas coming.
Thanks, Brendan. Another one that I have here on the adaptive controller. So a lot of the folks in our community, we know they maybe already have setups that work for them. Is the goal that people would go out and buy the Xbox adaptive controller, or?
Yeah, I'll take that. What we did with the adaptive controller was we made sure that we could support as much assistive technology devices that people have invested in as we could. That's why we use standard switches as the interface for external buttons and things like that with the adaptive controller, because we know that if people had an investment in these devices, that we'd want them to be able to reuse it. The thing is, if you have a rig that kind of works for you, we want to figure out how we can kind of enhance it. So, I know I just mentioned this, but Copilot is actually a really good way to extend the rigs that you already have. So if you have a rig that works for you, but there's just one small thing that you'd kind of like to change, I would suggest looking into Copilot and seeing how the adaptive controller can add a button to or a joystick, maybe to places where you have movement that you aren't thinking about.
This one came over email. Which titles can be independently played by those who are blind?
Wow, that's a really great question. I'll be frank with you, right now there aren't a lot. A lot of the games that we see people in the blind community playing right now are games that they're playing with some sighted assistance in a Copilot scenario, actually. Copilot's been really fantastic for our users in our blind community. That being said, we have one gamer in particular who's gone to a lot of effort, someone who comes in and consults with us quite a bit, a gamer by the name of Sightless Combat. He's been fantastic, huge shout out to him. And he uses a lot of extra assistive tech to play some of our titles and some of third-party titles on our platform, such as Gears of War and Killer Instinct. But he uses a lot of assistive tech that goes beyond what we currently have on the platform, and he's put a lot of work into that. And I'll be honest when I say it's not something that I think every blind gamer is going to probably be able to go and sort through. So that being said, we're trying very hard at Microsoft Game Studios to figure out ways to make our games more and more accessible to people with low or no vision. And our goal really is someday to get to a point where we can make our games available to somebody who has no vision so that they can sit down and play them independently. There is one game I can think of off the top of my head, Sally Tear, which is available on the console. So that's for anyone who's interested, I highly recommend you check out that title. There is another game on the PC that we released through the garage. I was actually part of that team, called Ear Hockey. It's really, really fun. It's free. You can get it through the Microsoft's, the Windows Store on Windows 10. You can download that, and it's a really fun version of audio ear. It's like a Pong. It's like an audio Pong version that has graphics for those who are sighted, and it also has really cool spatial audio for those who aren't. But we are definitely working on that space.
Thanks, Brandon. Another question that we have from a user here. What games support the Read to Me feature that you demoed earlier, Brandon?
So let games read to me. There are going to be games both by Microsoft and games that are outside of Microsoft that support that feature. The Division 2, I think, is a game that's outside of Microsoft that recently came out that supported that feature. Obviously, Crackdown 3 we just showed has that feature. Gears of 5 will be supporting that functionality when it comes out here on September 10th, so really excited about that. More and more titles are supporting that functionality. Now, some titles, I should note, will read that functionality directly from the operating system, the setting that we flagged there. Some games will actually prompt you to turn it on when the game starts. So there's a little bit of difference. Some titles will ask you about it when you launch it for the first time. Some will read the setting. There's a wide variety of titles and how they implement it. We're trying to make it consistent by making it an operating system level setting. But we are working and trying to figure out ways that we can, a lot of people are asking questions like, which title supports this functionality, or text-to-speech chat, or how do I know if a game supports this functionality or that functionality, or if it'll work for me? This is a question we get all the time in my group, and so we're investigating and trying to figure out ways that we can answer those questions in a more succinct, in a more easy to surface manner. And my hope is that sometime here we'll be able to give you guys a better way to identify which games are going to best meet your needs.
Great. So another question's come in. If I use Narrator on Windows, can I use some of the same keyboard commands if I connect a keyboard to the console?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not all of the same commands, but there is a subset of those commands that will work. We've tried to keep the keyboard paradigm pretty similar, so I think you'll find that a good chunk of the basic commands will work. Some of the more advanced Narrator shortcuts may not, but yeah, I think you'll find that the core, the basic operability should still be there. And if you find anything that isn't there or doesn't work the same way, please let us know. We're always again looking for feedback and always willing to take that back to the team.
Control works the same way with a keyboard, so you can clip those when Narrator gets a little exuberant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome, thanks. Another question that we have here. So Brandon, you mentioned the captioning settings on Xbox earlier.
Yeah.
Is there a list of which apps or games that I can apply those to, or?
Yeah, and that goes right back to that question we had earlier. There's so many people who want to know which settings and games work with that. And I'll be honest when I say we don't really have a good story right now in terms of surfacing which games support which functions. But to your point, like, we need a better way of doing that. So unfortunately, right now, I don't have a list of that, but it's definitely something that over the last 6 to 12 months, we've had a lot of people sending us those questions. So know that that's something that's definitely on our radar, and we're definitely trying to investigate how we can better provide our gaming and disability community with which games support which functions, accessibility functions.
Great. What about, can you adjust the text background color in speech to text?
The text background color in speech to text. Oh, in the system AI, that's a great question. Yeah, right now there's 2 different ways the text-to-speech APIs work. So we provide a set of APIs that developers can basically use. And they can either choose to use a very simple API, which we draw a window for them, and we put the text up for them. It's very no muss, no fuss. It's basically the basic APIs. Or we provide a kind of a more advanced version where they feed the information in and out, but they draw they render the UI. And they can make the text whatever colors or sizes or shapes or however they want to do it. They can adjust the interface. So in that scenario, when the developer's done that work, they can totally adjust the color of the text. They can adjust all of that stuff. When we render the window, there are certain things we allow, like we can allow developers or the user, if the developer allows for it, to move the window in different positions and change certain aspects. But I don't believe at this time we have the ability to allow the user or the game developer to change the color. So that's a great piece of feedback. Make sure you file that on our answers, our user feedback forums, and I'll also make sure we get that over to them as well, because that's a great piece of feedback.
Great, thanks, Brandon. Another one that we have from Twitter here. If I'm using Copilot, how many controllers can I use with that?
Yeah, so Copilot currently only allows for 2 controllers to be co-piloted. It is something that we've heard from the community and something that is in our backlog that we want to tackle, is the ability to co-pilot more controllers. That type of feedback is really important to us. So please, as Brandon said, enter it in the feedback forms. That really is the best way to get it to us. And we'll make sure that we prioritize that.
Yeah, I can't stress that enough. You guys asking for stuff is the way things happen. So the more we can get people asking for features, the more you guys can let us know that you need stuff, the easier it makes our jobs.
Yeah, in the feedback forms.
In the feedback forms, exactly.
Wow.
Is the Xbox Adaptive Controller easily available in all markets, and where can I buy it?
So we currently support 17 markets. I can't, US, most of Europe, but this fall we are going to the rest of the world where we do support Xbox devices. That list can be found again on support.xbox.com of the markets, but we are expanding to more markets this fall.
Great, that's awesome news. Another question that we have from a user on the adaptive controller, is there anything that a developer needs to do in order to support the controller, or does it just kind of work out of the box?
So we've talked about this a lot at the Game Developer Conference. Our point of view is we actually don't want game developers to design for the adaptive controller. What we want game developers to do is to design games that actually have reduced control sets that can work across all of our controlling devices. So what we mean by that is that even though the controller has 17 buttons, we just kind of ask developers, do you need to use them all? And at what level do you need to use them all? So what we ask for is this idea of, could someone who could only perhaps press 2 or 3 buttons, whether that's on an adaptive controller or a traditional controller, could they still have fun in your game? And what we mean by fun is that fun, right? We don't necessarily mean be competitive or master your game, but could they have a good time? And that's the advice that we give. And we're going to be writing up more about that soon. But yeah, we don't actually ask people to design for the adaptive controller.
Bryce, you have a great example with Rocket League, I think, is a good one that you showcase in the lab here.
Yeah, we use Rocket League again, like very similar to the Forza setup that I just showed, except that we have a foot pedal. But yeah, we basically go in and go, well, can I have fun in this game without the ability to move the camera or to slide or perhaps do that? But we do have head buttons for jumping. and then we accelerate with our feet. So yeah, Rocket League is actually a really good example of how the game developer also can customize the controls in their game to suit their game. There's a really great feature of Rocket League that lets you map acceleration to stick movement, which is really cool because you can basically play Rocket League with just one joystick.
Yeah.
All right, that is all the time we have for questions. Thank you for sending those in. As a reminder, if we did not get to your question, please contact Disability Answer Desk at aka.ms/DAD and reach out to us on Twitter at MSFTEnable with the hashtag accessibilitywebinars. To learn more about the Adaptive Controller, please visit aka.ms/XAC. To learn more about accessibility features on Xbox, visit aka.ms/Xbox accessibility features. And to share feedback on accessibility features or webinar topics for the future, please visit aka.ms/accessibility feedback.
Awesome. Thanks, Jennifer. And I know we've all been harping on this today, but we really love to get feedback from users. It's a really good way to help us shape the direction of our products. So whether it's on Xbox, on an Office product, on Windows, just make sure to give us your feedback because we'd love to hear from you. All right, so that is all the time that we have for today, so thank you all for joining. Once this session's over, we will send a link to a brief survey, so we'd love to get your thoughts on what you liked about today. And then if you want to view our full webinar schedule and see any archived sessions or videos, you can visit aka.ms/accessibilitywebinars. So our next webinar is on September 18th, 2019, and we'll cover using Microsoft Teams. So thank you all and have a good rest of your day.